Hello, 11th graders. Today I will discuss our second worksheet of semester 4. And as you know, our new theme is human rights. Today what we're going to talk about is the United Nations and its commitment to democracy and to improving and enhancing democracy in different parts of the world. So let's begin with the blurb. Read the selection below about how the United Nations supports democracy around the world and then answer the questions that follow. Commitment to democracy. The values of freedom, justice, and respect for human rights are essential elements of democracy. In turn, democracy provides the natural environment for the protection and effective realization of human rights. These sublime values are enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and further developed in the International Covenants on Human Rights. Remember, guys, as an introduction to our theme, we talked about the Declaration of Human Rights, okay, which more than 190 nations signed in Paris. One of those nations is Lebanon, in order to uphold and protect the basic human rights. Paragraph 2. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights is the principal human rights official in the United Nations. It represents the world's commitment to universal ideals of human dignity. It has a unique mandate from the international community to promote and protect all human rights. It provides input to global and regional actions for promoting democracy and human rights in cooperation with the United Nations agencies and regional organizations. In addition to assisting national actors and institutions involved in the administration of justice, it focuses on enhancing the capacity of Parliament to promote and protect human rights. Paragraph 3. According to the UN General Assembly, the evolution of democratic norms and standards should be clearly matched by an even greater operational activity on the ground concerning democracy-related issues such as elections, building institutions, strengthening civil society, and the rule of law. So these are what the UN is working on enhancing. Such efforts should continue to grow to consolidate or make stronger democracy around the globe and improve the quality of the world's democratic institutions and practices. So, as paragraph 3 clearly states, what the UN General Assembly wants to promote as democratic norms in operational activities on the ground concerning democracy-related issues like voting, how transparent the voting process is, how fair it is, building institutions that protects those democratic rights, and strengthening the civil society in any nation. Okay, and of course the rule of law. Paragraph number 4. One broad concept that is central to democratic practices and peace building is constitution making, which is part of UN global efforts. It ranges from drafting a new constitution to reforming an existing one. So according to paragraph 4, in order for democracy to be protected, it should be in the constitution. The rule of law in any nation is a constitution, okay? And if there are existing laws that are not so good, maybe we need to reform them or amend them, improve them. Both processes are needed for the success of constitution making, which presents a great opportunity to create a common vision of the future of a country. The results of accomplishing them have a profound and lasting impact on democracy, peace, and stability. In particular, the inclusion of commitments in peace agreements to address ethnic, regional, or political tensions in a constitutional framework can be a vital element in consolidating peace. Similarly, provisions to reform national systems can provide an important platform for efforts to strengthen democracy and the rule of law. Paragraph 5. The United Nations provides a wide variety of election-related technical assistance. Okay, so when there are elections in a certain developing country, the United Nations does provide help in order to make sure this process is going smoothly and going fairly. Okay, to requesting member states, of course, the UN can't do this by force. It needs to be requested by the nation itself. In electoral assistance activities, it tries to ensure organizational coherence and political and technical consistency in electoral activities. A coordination mechanism has been established with relevant United Nations departments, agencies, and programs involved in electoral assistance. So, as we know here, the UN first can help with the election process. Paragraph 6, besides a functioning democracy requires a free, active, and responsible civil society. So this is another way which the UN is helping promote democracy. To this end, civil society organizations, including non-governmental organizations, human rights groups, women's groups, youth groups, professional societies are indispensable, meaning very important. Okay, civil society organizations are organizations outside the government. Okay, and generally those are related to other social issues, environmental issues, etc., which help promote human rights and democracy. The United Nations supports over 400 civil society projects in more than 150 member states, meaning members of the United Nations. These projects aim to strengthen the voice of civil society and encourage the collaborative participation of all groups in democratic processes. The large majority of support steps goes to local non-governmental organizations and focus on the strengthening of democratic dialogue, civil society empowerment, civic education, freedom of the press, and the strengthening of the rule of law. Okay, it helps promote democratic dialogue, empowers, makes more powerful the civil society, civic education, you know what your rights are as a civilian, freedom of the press, meaning you are allowed to write or speak what you want in the press, on TV or in the newspapers, and the strengthening of rule of law. No one is above the law. Paragraph 7, empowering women. So this is the third thing. First, the UN is helping with organizing fair elections. 2, it helps build up civil societies. 3, it is helping in empowering women, and promoting women's rights are an integral part of the United Nations democracy assistance or help. This includes addressing gender discrimination that contributes to women's exclusion and the marginalization of their concerns. In addition, the United Nations supports democracies improving gender responsiveness in the context of elections and promoting women's political participation. The areas of support that are particularly noteworthy include building the capacity of women elected officials, fostering improved accountability for gender equality, and promoting increased attention to women in politics in the media. Okay, those are all ways to empower women in their respective societies. Paragraph 8, there are many recommendations relating to United Nations cooperation with both intergovernmental democracy movements as well as regional and intergovernmental organizations working in the field of democracy promotion. To support the continuing efforts of the United Nations in providing sustainable democracy assistance, it is necessary to enhance the reach of the International Day of Democracy and to expand the democracy assistance of the United Nations globally. So they are, in order for this to work, the UN needs the cooperation, okay, needs help with both intergovernmental democracy movements as well as regional and intergovernmental organizations to promote democracy. Okay, this brings us to our first set of questions, comprehension questions related to the text. Question number 1. Okay, first of all, we need to answer each of the following questions in 1 to 3 sentences using our own words. Question number 1, based on paragraph 1 displayed over here. How can you best describe the relationship between democracy and human rights? Okay, the values of freedom, justice, and respect for human rights are essential elements of democracy. In turn, democracy provides the natural environment for the protection and effective realization of human rights. Okay, so there it is, but we need to word it in our own way. Based on paragraph 6 displayed here also, what is the purpose of civil society projects supported by the United Nations? Okay, requires a free, active, and responsible civil society. To this end, civil society organizations, including non-governmental organizations, human rights groups, women's groups, youth groups, professional societies are indispensable. How? Okay, these projects aim to strengthen the voice of civil society and encourage the collaborative participation of all groups in democratic processes. Okay, so this is how civil society helps out. Question number 3 in paragraph 3 displayed here. What does the writer imply by saying the evolution of democratic norms and standards should be clearly matched by an even greater operational activity on the ground? Okay, so you have those democratic norms, but they need to be applied on the ground. The United Nations needs to work on ground with different civil society organizations, with the respective governments in order to make this work. Okay. Okay, such as how, when, on the ground meaning where, in elections, building institutions, strengthening civil society, and the rule of law. This is what it needs to be done on the ground for the enhancement of democracy. So those are the answers displayed here. There's a relationship of interdependence between democracy and human rights. Each is needed for the realization of the other. Answer for question number 2. The purpose of civil society projects supported by the United Nations is to make the voice of the civil society more heard and to encourage people's participation in democratic processes. 3. The writer implies that working continuously on the implementation of democracy is important for realizing it, of course, through different processes, through civil society, through helping out in elections and making sure the rule of law prevails. Part B, organizational skills questions. What is the pattern of organization in paragraph 7? Let's take a look. Empowering women and promoting women's rights are an integral part of the United Nations democracy assistance. This includes addressing gender discrimination that contributes to women's exclusion and the marginalization of their concerns. I still haven't seen a pattern yet. In addition, the United Nations supports democracy in improving gender responsiveness in the context of elections and promoting women's political participation. The areas of support that are particularly noteworthy include building the capacity of women elected officials, fostering improved accountability for gender equality, and promoting increased attention to women in politics. What the author is doing here is listing or classifying. So obviously the pattern of organization is listing. Okay, listing the areas of support that are noteworthy. Okay. Question number 2, what is the thematic relationship between paragraphs 5 and 6? A good clue would be to look at the first word or words of the next paragraph when you are taking a look at the thematic relationship between 2 different paragraphs. Let's take a look here. How does this end? In paragraph 5, a coordination mechanism has been established with relevant United Nations departments, agencies, and programs involved in electoral assistance. Besides, meaning also in addition, a functioning democracy requires a free, active, and responsible civil society. To this end, civil society organizations, including, etc. So besides means the author is adding and supporting to the idea in the previous paragraph. Thus, the thematic relation between paragraphs 5 and 6 is one of addition. Okay, and I'll give you the answers after this. What two types of audience might be interested in reading this article or reading this selection? I will display the answers now for all. Okay, first one, pattern of organization is listing. The writer lists the areas in which UN supports women's empowerment in its democracy assistance. 2, relationship of addition. In paragraph 5, the writer explains the United Nations technical assistance in electoral activities to support democracy. Then in paragraph 6, the writer uses besides, you need to tell me the clue words, to explain how the United Nations supports civil society democratic practices. 3 answers may vary here. I gave you a sample answer. Audience, like politicians, might be interested in reading this selection to understand how they can support democracy and human rights in their countries. Also, civil society activists might be interested in reading it to learn about democratic practices they need to enhance in their action plans. Okay. Moving on to pronoun reference in paragraphs 2, 4, and 7 displayed here. It in paragraph 2, let's take a look. Here it is. Okay. Read before and read after. It provides input to global and regional actions for promoting democracy and human rights in cooperation with the United Nations agency and regional organizations. In addition to assisting national actors and institutions involved in the administration of justice, it focuses on enhancing the capacity of the Parliament. You need to know what we were talking about from the beginning, which is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. Okay, from the beginning. Paragraph 4.1, let's take a look at it. It's here. Okay, it ranges, okay, one broad concept that is central to democratic practices and peace building is constitution making, which is part of UN global efforts. It ranges from drafting a new constitution to reforming an existing one. So obviously it refers to constitution, reforming an existing constitution or improving it. Third one, them in paragraph 4. Okay, both processes are needed to the success of constitution making, which presents a great opportunity to create a common vision of the future of a country. The results of accomplishing them have a profound and lasting impact. Accomplishing what? Okay, accomplishing all those democratic practices. Paragraph 7, this. Okay, empowering women and promoting women's rights are an integral part of the United Nations democracy assistance. This includes, what? Empowering women and promoting women's rights. Okay, so the answers, it in paragraph 2 refers to the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. 1 in paragraph 4 refers to Constitution. Them in paragraph 4 refers to both processes of drafting and reforming the Constitution. This in paragraph 7 refers to empowering women and promoting women's rights. Moving on, false statements, correcting false statements. The following statements are false, for they misinterpret what is stated or implied in the selection. Rewrite them correctly. The success of the constitution-making process can be achieved only by creating a new constitution. Of course not. Here's the mistake. By either creating a new constitutions or reforming an existing one. Now, question number 2, okay, the United Nations electoral statement number 2, the United Nations electoral assistance is based particularly on the work of agencies. No, not on its agencies. It works in collaboration with other non-governmental organizations, with the civil society groups, intergovernmental organizations, etc. So, first one, the success of the constitution making can be successful by the creation of new constitution and the reform of an existing constitution. 2, the United Nations electoral assistance is based on the mechanism of coordination between departments, agencies, and programs involved in electoral assistance. Okay. Moving on to part D, extracts. As I told you before, put the main idea of each paragraph next to it in order to help you find where this extract was taken from. Okay, 8 paragraphs in the selection. Which paragraph does this belong to? A and B. Gender equality and women's empowerment are a part of justice and human rights, and they are also essential for the achievement of human rights for all, for the development of all societies, for our collective global future. Of course, going back to the text, when they were talking about empowering women, how the UN is helping and empowering women, go straight there. And another thing you would do, if you're not 100% sure, read that paragraph and continue reading here. Does it make sense? Then you have the correct answer. It doesn't make sense, look for something else. Extract B, the spread of democracy around the world is one of the most significant achievements of our times, and the United Nations continues to be a trusted impartial actor, providing assistance in elections each year, either at the request of the member states or based on Security Council. This is the paragraph where they were talking about the UN helping out during election times, okay, for states that ask for it, that request for it. Okay, that is very clear. So the answers here, extract A is the correct ending of paragraph 7. Extract B is the correct ending of paragraph 5. Again, remember to write it in sentence form with a full stop at the end. Last part, vocabulary. Use contextual clues to figure out the meaning of each word in the box below, then fill in the blanks with the correct words to complete the following sentence. My advice to you is that even if you knew many of those words, please go back to context, because a word out of its context is nothing, and a word can mean different things in different contexts. So, if we go back to the text, we would see what the word sublime means. Okay, profound, extreme, okay, severe, collaborative, working together, indispensable, you cannot do without it, integral, important. So those are a bit close here. This is where you need to be careful. Technology has changed our lives, and the use of technology as an educational tool has become indispensable. You can't do without it. Is technology dispensable now in our times of Corona? I'm using technology, we're using technology to educate you, so we can't do without it. It's indispensable. It's not only important, it's indispensable for the process of education and for many other working fields. Number 2, the concert filled our hearts with so much joy because of the music the pianist played. What kind of music did he play? Sublime. Okay. 3, the Civil War had effects on industry, economy, and agriculture that will last for years. Profound, meaning severe. Okay. The most appropriate way is to work as a team and make efforts. The context clue, work as a team, make efforts, support, so collaborative, working together. So those are the answers, and this is all for today's worksheet. See you next time. For any further questions, we can discuss this on Zoom Live next time we meet. Bye.